Hi, my name is Prince Gerald Span, and today I'll be defining hip-hop and linking its fundamentals to African American literature. Come on. So what is hip-hop? Well, according to the Northern Anthology of African American Literature, hip-hop music is a hybrid form traceable to speech and song of the 19th and 20th century. It also taps into the Black prophetic tradition by urging listeners to awaken to new levels of political and spiritual consciousness, to read and to prepare to take forthright action in a far downfallen world. And lastly, hip-hop is a music that makes room for young Black performers to address Black audiences concerning serious matters of disempowerment and the urgent need for fundamental change. Now that we understand that African American literature is represented by the oppressed, let's take a look at one of his first autobiographies, The Life and Adventures of Venture Smith. We all know the story of Venture Smith. It's one that goes from riches to rags and then back to riches. Venture Smith understands the value of ownership and freedom. As a matter of fact, he earns enough money to buy himself and his family out of slavery. He states, "I hired myself at Fisher's Island and earned 20 pounds, 13 pounds, 6 shillings of which my master drew for the privilege, and the remainder I paid him for my freedom." Now, how does this relate to hip-hop? Venture Smith understands the serious matters of disempowerment and the urgent need for fundamental change. He develops an economic maturity for himself. But enough about Venture Smith. Let's talk about Martin Delany. Martin Delany, born a free man. Martin Delany thought, spoke, and wrote with a free mentality. Remember, Delany was an editor, a physician, a lecturer, a fundraiser, a novelist, an explorer, an army officer, a government bureaucrat, a politician, a realtor, a jurist, a social activist, and a reformer. His work highlighted the themes of Black pride, self-help, and Black nationalism. He says, "The United States, untrue to her trust and unfaithful to her professed principles of Republican equality, has also pursued a policy of political degradation to a large portion of her native-born countrymen, and that class is the colored people. Denied equality not only of political, but of natural rights, in common with the rest of our fellow citizens, there is no species of degradation to which we are not subject." He continues, "It is a time that we had become politicians. We mean to understand the political economy and domestic policies of nations. Let our young men and women prepare themselves for usefulness in businesses, that the men may enter into merchandise, trading, and other things of importance. The younger women may become teachers of various kinds. Parents must turn their attention more to their education of their children. We mean to educate them for useful, practical business purposes." Well, how does this relate to hip-hop? Remember, hip-hop taps into the Black prophetic tradition by urging listeners to awaken to new levels of political and spiritual consciousness, to read, and to prepare to take forthright action in a far downfallen world. But enough about men. Let's talk about women. How about Sojourner Truth? Sojourner Truth, described as a tall, gaunt Black woman who often wore gray dresses and white turbans. Boy, I'm sure she didn't get asked out to prom. But despite her physical appearance, Sojourner Truth was a beautiful woman. Inside. She became legendary for her commitment to human rights. In her infamous speech, "Aren't I a Woman?" Sojourner challenges both women and Blacks in general to demand fairness. She exclaims, "I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. Aren't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man, and bear the lash as well. Aren't I a woman?" At this time in history, women are perceived as nothing more than cleaning tools and nurturers, and Blacks possess no political or economic power to force change. However, Sojourner Truth, both Black and a woman, chooses to rise against all odds and have her say about discrimination. You might ask yourself, how does this correlate with hip-hop? Remember, hip-hop music is a hybrid form traceable to speeches within the 19th and 20th century. More importantly, hip-hop urges listeners to awake to new levels of political consciousness. By implying that women can work just as hard or even better than men, Sojourner stirs up a new consciousness among blacks and women, one that upsets social norms that are in play. Now that's hip-hop. Alright, next up we have James Weldon Johnson. Like Delaney, Johnson was born a free man. He grew up in the black middle class, his mother an English teacher, and his father a head waiter at a luxury hotel. Like many Negroes, Johnson would grow to fit Du Bois' definition of having a double conscience, that is, an African American with a European education. However, Johnson would go on to attend Atlanta University, where he would not only expand his education, but his love for his black people. Johnson learned that in Georgia, that black country folk were, quote, not something apart. He states, "They were me, and I were they. A force stronger than blood made us one." Here, Johnson, a well-educated Negro, devotes himself psychologically and emotionally to the uprising of blacks. In 1916, Johnson was asked to become the national organizer of the NAACP. He engaged the organization in mass tactics, such as the silent protest parade down on New York's Fifth Avenue, in which 10,000 African Americans took part on July 28, 1917. So what's the bridge between Johnson's work and hip-hop? Let's take a look. Johnson used his political experience to help guide the NAACP in its fight for black rights. Keep in mind, hip-hop has always unveiled the reality of black life. It's a song by the underdog to the underdog, a song that awakens the oppressed. Secondly, he helps to organize more than 10,000 Negroes in a silent protest against injustice. We all know that hip-hop is more than words. It's taking forthright action in a downfallen world. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at one of Johnson's master teachers, Mr. Booker T. Washington. Again, hip-hop is about action. And whose actions speak louder than their words? Mr. Booker T. Washington. Washington's philosophy behind industrial training would be Malcolm X's platform for black nationalism. Let's take a look at its principles. Industrial training would ultimately permit blacks to benefit from their own fruits of labor, helping them to regulate their own economy of trades and establish their own businesses. Washington understood that economic power was the key. Secondly, industrial training valued black craftsmanship, reflecting self-worth and responsibility. In his speech, The Atlanta Compromise, Washington states, "In all things purely social, we can be as separate as the five fingers, and yet one as the hand in all things essential to mutual progress." Washington's philosophy is the path to black independence. He understood that economic power would lead to political power, and then to the empowerment of African Americans. Like hip-hop music, Washington addresses serious matters of disempowerment and the urgent need for fundamental change.
Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern. Once you change your thought pattern, you change your attitude. Once you change your attitude, it changes your behavior pattern. And then you go on into some action. As long as you got a sit-down philosophy, you'll have a sit-down thought pattern. And as long as you think that old sit-down thought, you'll be in some kind of sit-down action. They'll have you sitting in everywhere. Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern. Once you change your thought pattern, you change your attitude. Once you change your attitude, it changes your behavior pattern. And then you go on into some action. As long as you got a sit-down philosophy, you'll have a sit-down thought pattern. And as long as you think that old sit-down thought, you'll be in some kind of sit-down action. They'll have you sitting in everywhere.
In this speech, Malcolm X promotes a, quote, do-it-yourself philosophy, a philosophy that awakens and encourages us to think independently. Hip-hop can be linked to this same philosophy through its lyrical edginess, which motivates others to think for themselves. It's not until this stage that we can, quote, take action or make a difference in the world around us. Like hip-hop, Malcolm X encourages his audience to think outside of the box, to never take no for an answer, and deliver a message by, quote, any means necessary. Like an MC, Malcolm's words are forceful and energetic, and that makes it both educational and entertaining. Again, that's hip-hop. So, in conclusion, how has the legacy of African American writers, social activists, and civil rights leaders influenced hip-hop today? Well, like jazz music, hip-hop has become universal, limiting itself to no race, culture, religion, gender, or generation. It uses a series of call and response in a variety of instruments. More importantly, hip-hop continues to magnify political propaganda and social injustice among black communities. Hip-hop artists dig into the reality of everyday life, whether it's talking about education, abuse, or drugs. For example, in his hit single, Runaway Love, rap star Ludacris tells the story of 3 young girls who grew up in a home where they faced neglect and abuse. His message is to urge young girls who face these situations to, quote, run away and to seek some kind of help. This is hip-hop because the lyrics spread a message about taking action and rebelling against that which oppresses you. Like any genre of music, hip-hop is a lifestyle. Today, many hip-hop artists support charity foundations, they own businesses, and they live a luxurious lifestyle. It's an image that says, hey, if we, the underdog, the oppressed, the poverty-stricken class can do it, then so can you. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Have a great evening, and remember, stay hip.
To do whatever comes naturally.